Perfect. Hi, everybody. Really great to see you all. So I'm Annabelle. I direct the communications and I work a lot on policy at Electa. I have a communications background. I've worked in the corporate world and done lots of digital and political campaigning. I have stood myself. I have run teams of candidates who have stood at national, regional, and local level. So I have a considerable amount of experience and I am something of a political anorak. So I follow data on the polling. I will probably know more than I should do about lots of different political stuff that's happening because it's really what I'm really, really interested in. And I'm very passionate about us having representation from across society in all of elected office because I think it really matters. So that's kind of me. It does mean that I have also had to practice hustings myself. For me, I've helped people get there, and I think it's really to a lot of it is really about preparation, and it's knowing about you and what you want to stay. But part of that preparation is knowing exactly what you're walking into. I should say, if you want to ask any questions, please just ask a question at any time. I'm very happy. Thank you. My eldest has just bought me a hot chocolate. It's very sweet of him. He's very good at making them. It's like his thing. Yeah, if you want to, drop it in the chat or just ask. But I'm very happy to chat through anything. And if I haven't explained anything clearly, please let me know. I should also say that we have tonight, Lottie is with us. Lottie is a new member of our team and she speaks fluent Welsh. She is Welsh. And so if anyone would like some Welsh additional, some Welsh input, Lottie is here to help and support. And we will be sending out anyone who is running in Wales, we will be sending out everything now in both languages at last. We have worked quite hard in the past to try and get there, but now we have actually in-person team who can speak Welsh, so it's amazing. It's made a huge difference already to everything that we're sending out. Feels quite cool. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to start with talking about sort of your preparation around hustings. I suspect that all of you have already had invitations and are beginning to ramp up. We are asking the wider community to hold them. So there's definitely a push at this point. Usually they start sort of April is going to be quite full on, I suspect. And I really want you to think about carefully about the details. What is the format and structure? What are the types of questions? What is the length of the event? All of those, it is absolutely fine for you to go into quite specific detail and ask. We do have a handout that we're going to send around to all candidates. I just want to make it look a bit prettier. We have it currently in a Word document, which is also in English and in Welsh, just laying this out. But I'm going to walk you through it because I think it's really important. So whoever approaches you to hold that hustings, your immediate response is yes, you're going to do all of them. Absolutely, if you can, go to them. They're a really great opportunity. Ask what the format and structure is, ask the types of questions, ask the length of event. They may not be able to answer around the types of questions, but they may have sent out or maybe asking people in advance what the questions are. And you want to know if you're going to have eyes on those questions before the event starts. Where it is, go and check it out beforehand. Understand what you're walking into because it makes you feel immediately more in control. If it's a cold room because it's a church hall, know that because if you're going to be sitting in it for 2 hours, you really want to make sure you're wearing the right clothes. It's like basic things like that just to make you feel more comfortable in that surroundings. And checking it out beforehand is a really important piece. How do I get my voice? If it is a church hall, because it often can be, or a community hall, often your voice doesn't sound further down the building, but you won't necessarily know that. If you can't go and check it out beforehand another day, make sure you give yourself enough time to spend a little bit of time just working out what it looks like. The format and the structure of the evening, that's really important. So most of them will have a short introduction from each candidate. And then they'll move on to questions from the audience. Or they might have questions from the person chairing and then move to questions from the audience. If there aren't questions from the chair, they will be prepared in advance. You should have eyes on those. And please don't be afraid to ask the organisers about timings, expectations for the event. It's really important. That introduction piece is going to be your moment to kind of cut through and to talk to people. I generally think they have a 1 to 2 minute introduction from each candidate. It is really important to spend time on this and to think about what you're going to say. We always say that the best thing to do is prepare 3 versions of your story. And we have some help in our Kajabi platform, which I can show you about your story. But I would prepare a 60-second, 1 minute piece around you, a 2 minute one, and a 3 minute one. And I would have those as your go-to. Now, it depends on what the hustings shape is like, and they may work within those, but that gives you the basis on which to work. Those are the things that you want people to try and remember around you. Those are the things that you really want to be able to shape what people's expectations are. So obviously they will introduce you and the party. That will be the kind of intro. You then want to talk about why you're standing, what it is that you're offering, the values that you offer as a person in this, and what you think you're going to do for the community. I'd really focus really tightly on that shape, because you will probably have an end piece as well, and you can come back and go over those, but it is just shaping you and who you are in those 1, 2, and 3 minute pieces. And I would practice them, and I'd practice them quite a lot, and I'd practice them with kind friends who are going to say, that's amazing, you're brilliant. And I'd practice them with friends who I call the slightly red flag, a little bit constructively critical, who are going to be like, well, bleh, that's a bit whatever. I'd find those people that you can manage hearing that criticism from, because if you hear it from them, it's just a little bit easier, and can make life better if you just working through and hearing and knowing that criticism and understanding where you could improve it. Um, if there's any questions about that, let me know. So I want to know why you're standing, what you're bringing, your values, and why you are the right candidate for the ward, for the constituency, for the region, for the area, etc. I'd also make sure you're timing yourself, rehearse in front of the mirror, maybe before you do a friend. Organisers can be really brutal, and they can just cut you, and they'll be like, "You're done. You just need to stop." So I just in your mind, if you pull it in slightly under the 3 minutes or under the 2, that's absolutely fine. Most people, is the 60-second one is hard to get just right. But what you want to think about is the things that you want people to know about you. So always on mine, I would be, I'm an ex-police officer. I've worked in forensic mental health, and I have 3 kids. So that is like, this person is not what I'm expecting her to be, because she's been in the police. She understands duty and service. That is what that is telling me. So it's that emphasis, and that's what you're telling with that story. And so people can then feed into that a little bit, and it's what you're guiding them to, leading them to, and the experience you're bringing. That's what you're trying to create. And as Katie said, with our Ask Her sessions that we have, these one-to-ones, we're happy if you fancy coming and you want to just practice this kind of stuff. That's exactly what we're here for, because we've also all done it quite a lot. So yeah, if you needed that one-to-one, please feel free to come and do that. And then I think what generally you want to think about is how you prepare for local issues, the issues that matter. So my assumption is you know your area probably better than quite a lot of people now. So what are the priorities of your party? What are the key community concerns? What are the main issues that your party is campaigning on? Some parties are better at ensuring that all candidates know what those things are. Some are not so good. And it also is depending on where you're standing. Some can leave you with tumbleweed for information because you're not a target seat. Others will be really helpful and will be sending out lines to take and things that you need to know about. So unfortunately, sometimes you can be quite left to your own devices, but it's preparing those pieces of information, and each of the questions that you imagine would come about those pieces of information. So think I always do. So I'm a bit old school when I'm thinking about how I'm speaking, and I will always write it down on a piece of paper. You do it on the computer, whatever works for you. But what is the issue? What are people's concerns around that issue? What are your answers and solutions to that issue? Um, Sorry, I just got a flag about someone coming in. Anyway, um, so those are the key ways, and go through it, go through all of the issues, however you best respond to them. So some people like to take those little prompt cards, and they will have the issue. They'll have their right. I've thought about this. I've thought about exactly what the priorities are. I've thought about the key community concerns because I know them because on the doorstep, this is what people are telling me. This is the kind of things that people are kind of come at us with. So anticipate those questions. Think about what you've seen or heard locally, and that will often shape the hustings. Um, just I'd also be thoughtful in that in a 1 hour hustings, for example, you might get 5 to 8 questions. Depends on the number of candidates on that stage, but that is probably where you are. the The other thing I'd say is, um, depending on the number of candidates, if somebody hasn't shown, I would make it clear prior to the husting starting with the person who's running it that they need to what's they call empty chair them. So that is just a label that sits on the chair saying the name and the party for the person who did not bother to turn up at the hustings. So make sure that that is part of the agreed terms of running this hustings, because it is something, and you can then always do the thing. Well, my opposing candidate couldn't even be bothered to be here to answer your questions. That is the kind of thing that you can language that you can be using, because this is an opportunity to excel your virtues and criticize the weaknesses in the other party. I think good example questions. I mean, people are obsessed. We did a project last year for the local government association, and the top 10 things that poll every time: bin collections is always up there, potholes, road speed, always up there in the top 10. So it's our area has ongoing concerns with bin collections. What would you do to address this? So a strong answer. You've got to talk about your local concerns, what you would want to do, and what your practical solutions are to all of those. Um, I also think that then you need to think about your closing statement. So that can often be a much shorter piece. It really depends. But again, I really want you to make sure that you have been informed about what length of time you have got to speak, because it's really important to do that. Been to Residents Association hustings and spoken to about 4 people, but all the candidates were there. And the thing is that all those 4 are quite influential in the community, so it's never not of value to do that. Yes, I would, but I'd probably do a bit of a recce beforehand around that kind of Q&A, because I'd really want to make sure that I understood what the issues were for those local residents. There'll always be some specific stuff that's really challenging. It's always interesting to find out if, if it's a residents association place, are they using their council funding? There's always council support and funding for residents association projects, and usually it can often not be part of what people have applied for, because you have to apply for a lot of this stuff. It's just things like that. It's just worth finding out those kind of details, because that can make quite a big difference. And that funding can be spent on things that local residents can do. So they can fund a street party, fund some cleaning projects, fund some repairs to a playground, fund a new bench. Like it's all that sort of stuff. And that might feel, I don't know how many of you are at local level, but those kind of things become really important pieces of it. I realise, Casey, actually, we didn't go through where everyone is standing at the beginning, but we can do that afterwards.
Would everyone like to pop in the chat? You do that?
Let's do that.
Your where you're standing, which election you're standing in. Have you got any other things they should put in the chat? Whether you've
So
been Hustings before?
yeah, um, and it would be useful to know if anyone has actually had a Hustings invite, because then we can speak specifically if you've got some concerns or issues.
Annabelle had a message to say, please can you make sure to speak loudly and clearly?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm a bit. Hang on, let me turn my volume up as well. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Hi, Mel. Um, so in terms of that, preparing that closing statement, usually it's really short. So if you've got 30 seconds or a minute, what are you going to say to those people to basically they walk away with that impression of you? Um, it's always really good practice to thank the audience for being there in that 30 seconds. Reinforce why you're standing and remind people what you bring to the table. Those are the key things that I would like you to get into that short statement. And again, it's exactly like the first introduction statement. Practice, and that will help. So, oh Mel, oh, um, standing in front of that mirror, practicing those statements, making just reiterating and practicing how you're going to say it, what you're going to say, and then try to do it with friends. One thing to think about is what you're going to wear. And we were with the Scottish presiding officer a couple of weeks ago, and Katie got a great video of her talking about it, and she was sort of reiterating some of the things I'm saying. You've got to prepare for it and thing. But she also said, and I hadn't really taken this on board, but actually think about what you're wearing. So I know I talked about a cold church hall but actually what is comfortable for you, because you don't want to be, I don't know, in a tight skirt when you realize that you're sitting slightly on a raised platform. It's an uncomfortable position. Or is it a trouser suit? Is it that kind of crowd, or does that feel too smart for that place? So just think about what you're wearing that makes you feel like you're in charge and in control, because I think that's a really profoundly important thing. I know I feel it when I have a certain range of jackets I've had for donkey's years, and my favorite is this Zara jacket with pockets. And so I know that if I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable, I can put my hands in my pocket and I won't fiddle with them, and that will make me feel more comfortable and confident about what I'm doing. I also have this practice where before the hustings start, or before a debate or a public speaking event starts, I take myself back to where I have been on my best performing. So it can be lots of different things. So for me, I have two specific ones. I went to a hustings once. Honestly, I just completely, I was ace. And in my head, I know I was ace because people came up to me afterwards and went, "That was really good. You were really good." And I was like, "Yeah, I was actually. That's really cool." So I just remember that moment and thinking, "Yeah, I was ace." And then the other one I had is I did a PhD a while back, and I did a Viva. And honestly, I can't tell you, it was the most amazingly life enhancing and scary thing at the same time. But it was amazing to come out of there and think, "Yeah, I've done this," and I managed to get it with some minor corrections. But it also, because I was passionate about the subject I was doing, you're passionate about the area you're standing in. There's a very similar piece there. You go into that, you know your stuff. You're not always going to get it completely on right. You're not always going to have the best experience. You're not always going to nail it. But just know that you have got this. Like, and the reason you're standing is because you really care. That is absolutely fundamental to this. Um, there are some really good tricks to also when you're being asked questions. Now there may be an order, and he may always do it, or she may always do it in a specific order. The chair of that hustings, there are always these tricks. Always thank the person who asked the question. It gives you a couple of seconds to adjust yourself to what you're then going to say and think about, and that's a really nice trick. If you are completely thrown by the question and you're feeling a bit uncomfortable, do you know what? Thank you so much. That is such an interesting question. I haven't thought about exactly how I'd answer that. But I think I'd like to say, and you have given yourself a little bit of time to think about it. There is also the trick that you learn, and unfortunately, it gives politicians a bad name, but it is the pivot. And you do this in media interviews as well. And you pivot to something you do know what you're talking about. So if someone comes to you and you're like, I actually don't know about the bin collections, really know about the bin collections, but just say you don't. And someone says, oh, I really, and what do you feel about it? And you're thinking, I have no idea. Thank you so much for that question. That's really interesting. That makes me think that there are certain problems in this area that I know that we can do it. One of the issues that people have told me about is actually whatever this other issue is that's really important. So you're completely ignored the question. You've moved it on to something else that people care about because you don't answer. It happens. It really does. I'm just going to have a look through some of these. So yeah, wear trousers is a very good tip, actually, I think, because it just makes life easier. I mean, not everyone wants to, and that's fine, but yeah, or maybe good solid tights. um, yes, hot flushes, that is hard, and I've definitely experienced that. I find, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, but Rescue Remedy on the tongue, that's quite nice. And there is a cooling agent that you can buy, which just cools your wrists a little bit. And of course, that hits the blood spot, so that can help cool you down a little bit as well. Those are really nice. Layers is also a great idea. So whatever it is, shirt, top, jacket, it's getting too hot. Take off the jacket. That's absolutely fine. They've seen you with the jacket. They know, like it. That's a very good one of doing it. Um, oh, so this is interesting. If you're standing as an independent, um, I would make absolutely sure that you have given your name to all of the local media. So whether it's local radio stations or any local press, because they will know about hustings because they'll be invited to go. And if they don't know about it, any hustings, that's an issue. But you also want to make sure that you do get local press to hustings. It's a really good opportunity for you to get out what you think and feel about what's going on. And so you want to make sure when you're talking to the organisers about what's happening, have you invited the local press? Oh, you haven't? Well, we have a connection with them. Let us do it. Make sure that they are there because it gives you an opportunity. Make sure you're having photos taken of you there. Take selfies if you haven't got someone else with you to take them. Make sure you then share that on social media because obviously you haven't shared it on social media, you never did it. And then make sure that you blog about it and talk about it the following couple of days and talk about the things, the issues that you have. The great thing is you've got your prompt cards or whatever it is, the issues that you've prepared. Not everyone likes cards to have at hand. You really have to work out what suits you better. Um, I like some bullet points in big writing, and that is it. But those bullet points always trigger for me other thoughts, which I can then pull in. But it really depends, and that is a bit of practice. Um, but yeah, so you've got those bullet points, and having done those, you can then do some videos for social media about the things you talked about at the hustings. And it's like all of this becomes layers of useful piece of extra information. So you can put that on your social media, or if you don't fancy doing a video, you can always just write a post about what you talked about, and it's a nice way of amplifying everything that happened at the hustings. Um, oh, Mal, it sounds like you didn't have a great time, and I'm really sorry because that is a bit tough, basically. Yeah, I know it's hard. Um, but can I just say that I came out of one hustings and there were like 500 people there. It was absolutely mega. It was awful. And this, but luckily I wasn't the worst at the hustings, so maybe that was one of my saving graces. But I came out and I overheard somebody go, "Well, she just looked like a rabbit in the headlights, didn't she?" And it was like, "Oh God, that's so brutal." And I got better. Like I got much better, and it was actually just practice.